Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to SP Reviews, where today we have ourselves a track by an act named Low Reply titled Ride of Your Life. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on Spotify and we're going to listen through this from start till finish. We're going to hear what we think. Let's go. We got some music box vibes to start off with. Some subtle filtered production there, or percussion.
I'm so in love with you. Don't know what I will do.
Oh, it's really polished.
Baby, it's just for you. Baby, it's just for you. I wanna love you. It's worth all the way.
Yeah, I like how that 808 comes in there. It's really powerful sounding with the lady vocals with the repeaters on it. Great ambience to it. Some ascending synth leads there. Trap drums there as well coming into the verse. Oh. Oh, a subtle build there with these those kicks. Okay. It actually transfers really well. And we got like similar sort of textures carrying over between the different sections after the build and before and after, you know? The drop sounds huge, but we're not totally unfamiliar with what we've got in there. Great shift and variations in the rhythm and percussion there. I like the depth of the mix, you know, there's all these sub layers going on there. It kind of sounds like the mix has is three-dimensional. It's what happens when you have sufficient dynamic range in a track without without leaving it too unfiltered, you know. Again, we've got that music box continuing through with that interesting arpeggio thing going on.
I just wanna go where your love take me. No, don't be sorry.
Great octave notching there between the very low basses, the percussion elements which are not as colourful obviously, and lady vocals on top. A variation of those, there's a repetition of the vocal melodies there as well as some of the phrasings in those lyrics, which is good. Offers continuity throughout. I kind of like the mild distortion on those kind of really otherworldly synth leads there, caked in reverb. I mean, it's clear that Low Reply had a lot of fun with how they got the different sort of samples to sound within those grooves.
Things used to happen, I used to write it down.
No, never again. Gonna be. No, never again. Gonna be. I'ma flex it on my ex. I'ma do it better. I'ma show you who the best. I'ma do it better. I'ma flex it on my ex. I'ma do it better. I'ma show you who the best.
So this is like 87.5 or 175 BPM in it. I'm hearing it kind of sounds as quick as a lot, so like the kind of liquid stuff I hear, the drum bass. But I like how low key it is at the same time. It doesn't need to sort of like be too bombastic. It's got a really kind of chilled out personality to it.
It's very painful.
Great variation this last drop as well. The cutting in groups of 3. You should know that baby I got you. Because, you know, throughout this track with the lyrics, the story that's been told, we have someone, this girl, who's always saying, I want to go where you go. Like, I trust you, know, like I have faith in you. We're going to get through this together, etc. You know, Ride of Your Life could probably go for the... I'll talk about it more later on. I like that we're really stuck with the chopping of it. I think that's a fantastic way to end things. It would have been a little bit lackluster if we just let the drop kind of copy and paste. Great use of the waveforms, the sample takes to those vocal parts there. It's a different way of approaching the communication of those. You're making the words or the lines more of an instrument, an additional lead layer on top without putting another, instrumental layer in to kind of change up the leads. I think that's a smart idea. Oh, slowing it down like with a lot of kind of like the funk stuff I hear nowadays. It's really interesting how the slowing down of stuff has become quite popular over the last couple of years, especially. And just that motif being repeated there, but brought into a new light with that slowing down there by about 20 to 30%. It's great. It's a really cool track. So this is the conclusion of my review of Ride of Your Life by Low Reply. What do I think this track is about? I think it's about someone who is maybe looking at their life and all the stuff they've gone through and looking at the future and just needing that support and someone to tell them, we'll get through this together. I got you, show me all your love, etc. Show me everything you can, putting everything 100% into it. And I appreciate that. I think that's a really good methodology for life, without getting too sort of like heavy on it. It's a really positive thing to write a song about, being grateful for what you have as well as not taking it for granted. I think the vocal performance from the woman in this track is really caring and genuine, and she seems like she's got a lot of passion for the person she's speaking to. Given that I don't see, I think Low Reply is a dude. So I'm assuming that he's hired a singer to sing these parts. I'm assuming that this is more of a message to himself to kind of give it his all and to kind of like have faith in his own existence and the journey that he's on. I think that's a smart idea. I think that the performance again sounds very genuine and authentic. There's a lot of variety, lots of different notes sung. There's variations to the different lines, and the lady singer has clear head and chest voice, great technique there. A little bit of ornamentation and vibrato and such in there. And I think as well, the way things were done, where we were sort of cutting and chopping up the vocals was great as well. And that last drop there is a variation to what we had initially. I think that we had the right amount of complexity with the line of delivery as well as the words there. And I think there was a great balance between the story, what the needs of that were emotionally from a performance perspective, and keeping it like relative with everything else within the composition. The track at 4 minutes 25, obviously it's not short. A lot of the tracks I listen to nowadays are between that 2 to 4 minute sweet spot, but I don't necessarily mind that it's longer. We got a few verses in here, a few different drops. And what I really appreciate was the variety, or the change rather, again in that third drop that we had. But we also had lots of different approaches to the way that the percussion, for example, we had, even if we use similar samples, we would filter them so that only the high or the low parts would exist there. We had kind of different ways of implementing those different rhythms there. Sometimes we'd accelerate the amount of snares or kicks we had to kind of go from like a half time to a double time or something like that. Or have offbeat accents or whatever in a way that is really meaningful. And it's not just that we kind of double the amount every kind of 2 or 4 bars in the build. It's that there was switching up going on within the drop itself. We weren't just sitting on a sample pack and not a sample pack, but like a sample groove. Or like we weren't just cutting in one MIDI kind of sequence and just kind of calling it a day and just making it work with the 16. We really put effort into changing up those grooves and the percussion in each drop, whilst not alienating the listener too much by losing the main sort of accent as a whole, and it was great. The bass was really nicely handled. I think that it was fantastic. The low ends, the 808s, etc. that we had, they were a bit more subtle in the verse sections, but they were nice and full sounding in some parts of the intro, as well as the drop parts. They filled it up really, really nicely in the headphones with a great sort of stereo dimensionality to it. And there was nice notching again with those lady singer parts on top. The synth parts we had were lovely. We had some synth leads with some interesting sort of like effects chains on them, bit of distortion, lots of reverb soaked and everything, maybe some repeaters as well, bit of phasing or a little bit of other kind of warping going on there, which was really great to listen to. It added a sense of kind of like torment to what was going on with the vocal performance there within the main viable motif of the track. but it also was very pretty sounding to go alongside the music box that we had there that was kind of chirping along in the intro as well as in other parts of the track as a familiar, as a welcome reintroduction. I think it was great to have the heaviness of the drops come and have the music box come back in to kind of take away a bit of that sort of depth in the lower end and kind of make it float a bit. That's just a really easy way of changing perceived loudness there and making it fresh and interesting for listeners as well, which is good. We had other elements as there, other sort of synth textures. We had maybe some other leads in there. We may have had different basses, but overall, the motif in the chord progression, you know, boom, 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 boom. It was like very simple there. We had some other sort of like little bits of ornamentation, articulation in the upper ranges. And obviously the percussion had lots of variety to it. But it was a very, very simple kind of chord progression for a lot of the time. And I think that was to allow the complexity of what was going on with those vocal parts to kind of coincide with the percussive bits and really just to kind of get us lost in this mistiness, this sense of introspection that we're going through. I got a feeling listening to this track that they were going through a lot of thinking about where their life was going and everything like that. And that does come through with not only within the lyrics and the story, but also with the arrangement itself, the accompaniment to all that. So all in all, I think there's a great sense of cohesion and unity between the elements, and I'm very happy with it. I mean, finally, the recording, mixing, and mastering was fantastic. I really liked the tone of the vocals, how they were done. The bass parts were nicely controlled and leveled in a low end. The drums were nice and crisp as well, with a bit of filtering as well to sometimes make them sound a little bit different, or kind of like change up, switch up parts there, or chop, you know, verse parts or drop parts in half because of that. The synth parts and the leads and the music box and all the other kind of mid to higher elements were nicely notched and filtered there to kind of make sure the frequency spectrum was nice and even with no weird resonant frequencies. There was lots going on within the stereo field, poking in all over the place, and it was very engaging from that perspective as well. There were changes of perceived loudness with a dynamic range that was thoroughly acceptable, despite the fact that it was mixed in a way where it would sound fantastic through like a club set. It's great. I'm really happy with it, and it was nice and loud without pumping, with adequate compression throughout to balance things without being too much. All in all, this is my review of Lorelei and their track Ride of Your Life. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please you could check out their various social medias and a Spotify page, and stay cool, stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.